they were interested, and I felt that way, and I always kind of wanted it to be Chicago, so I'm really happy it happened.
Vaclav Nestrasil just couldn't hide that smile. From rooting for the Blackhawks throughout his childhood to his own dad running Hawks propaganda before the draft, the fit between player and team was almost too good to be true. But despite the heartwarming storyline, this pick was still a bit controversial, as he was seen as a very raw player with many experts giving him a second-round grade. So why did the Blackhawks draft him in the first round, and more importantly, what role will he have on the future team? To answer these questions, we'll first walk through Nestrasil's history to better understand why he is such a raw prospect to begin with. We'll then discuss his evolution as a player in his draft year and the positive traits that made that happen, and we'll cover some areas of improvement that will help him reach his ceiling in the NHL. And if you stay till the end of the video, I'll discuss why this may turn out to be one of Kyle Davidson's most important draft picks of them all. But before we begin, 82.3% of you aren't subscribed. It's free, it takes half a second, and it makes a huge difference. So if you enjoy these breakdowns and want to see more, just hit that button. And with that being said, let's get into Nestrasil's journey to being drafted. Vaclav Nestrasil comes from a hockey family. All four of his brothers played the sport, and his two older brothers went on to become professional players. Naturally, he started playing at a young age, and by the time he turned 17, he was already one of the most promising young Czech talents. In his D-1 season, he starred in Czechia's U17 league, where he tallied 29 goals and 21 assists for 50 points in just 34 games. He also represented Czechia's national U17 team, recording 8 points in 12 games. Nestrasil capped off this strong season by joining the Muskegon Lumberjacks, where he had the chance to play alongside fellow Blackhawks prospect Sasha Boisvert for the final 11 games of the year. Now, I want to make it clear that despite this early success, Nestrasil was not exactly considered to be an earth-shattering offensive prospect. The Czech U17 league is not a great level of competition, and the jump to the USHL represents an absolutely massive leap. So it's no surprise that his offensive impact didn't carry over immediately to North American hockey. He put up no points in his 11-game D-1 audition, and he only managed 8 points in the opening 21 games of his draft year. So how did he manage to remain an integral part of Muskegon's lineup even when the offense wasn't there? The answer is very simple. He absolutely embraced the role that he was given. Even though he only averaged around 10 minutes a night in the first half of his draft year, he played exactly the way you would want a third liner to play. Nestrasil's #1 standout trait is his motor, which made a role like this easy for him to fit into. He's almost always the most active player on the ice. He's always moving his feet, his stick is always active, he's always looking for any way to disrupt the game, and his brain is never turned off. This next clip is an absolutely hilarious example of the extent that Nestrasil strives to cause chaos in the other team. This play occurs in transition, and the other team is gathering the puck in their own defensive zone. The moment the opposing player turns his back, Nestrasil immediately smacks his stick on the ice, both to cause confusion and to signal to teammates and opponents alike that he's on his way to hunt down the puck. This deep-rooted desire to cause chaos and force mistakes makes him a true multiplier on the ice. On this play, Nestrasil attacks the player on the blue line and then immediately follows up the pass and attacks a second player, forcing a quick decision that's initially tipped away by a teammate. He then stays in good position, but the moment an opponent bobbles the puck, he explodes into position to tie up his stick and force the puck out of the zone. This type of effort shows up in every single play in every zone, and it will translate directly to the NHL. It's been a recent trend among NHL analytics nerds to track stuff done per 60, aka the impact that a player has on the game, regardless of what that impact specifically is. When Nestrasil makes the NHL, I fully expect him to be among the team leaders in that statistic, because even when a play doesn't involve him, he forces his way in and finds a way to have an impact. Now, Nestrasil is not a player that touches the puck a lot, especially for a first-round pick, so this attitude is incredibly important. And the special thing about his motor is that even though he plays with the same chip on his shoulder that smaller players do, he's also a towering 6'5" tall. That combination of relentless drive and massive reach makes him a forechecking terror. He closes space in a heartbeat, swallows up passing lanes, and forces turnovers before opponents even have time to react. And generally, most of Nestrasil's best offensive moments come directly from his effort and his forechecking. In this clip, the opposing goalie is handling the puck behind the net, but Nestrasil is an absolute dog chasing a bone on the forecheck. The goalie tries to pull off a cutesy spinning backhand pass past Nestrasil, but he was having none of it. He easily intercepts the pass, and then, with his back to the play, he scans over his right shoulder. Many players in this position would have hurried a pass because they wanted to catch the goalie out of their net, but Nestrasil instead waits for his teammate to reach the slot before sending an accurate pass for a one-timer. The goalie makes a really good initial save, but Nestrasil is the first to react to the rebound and roofs it over the sprawling goaltender. This is the result of several good plays happening in quick succession. He absolutely earned this goal. But interestingly, even though his forechecking and his motor stand out as obvious strengths, his skating is a bit controversial. The Hockey Writers has skating as one of his 4 strengths, but Elite Prospects rates his skating as his lowest overall trait at a 4.5 on their scale. I think the truth is somewhere in between, but let me explain. Nestrasil's skating output is very good in short areas. When he has a designated area of ice to cover, whether beelining into a board battle on the forecheck or covering an area of the defensive zone, he's able to zip around and use his long reach extremely effectively. But when he's going from zone to zone at full speed, this mobility is not quite as consistent. He lacks flexion in his ankles and remains relatively upright. So even though his output is actually pretty good for a bigger player, there are some scenarios in which his skating starts to let him down. This is most obvious when he is in possession of the puck. Especially at the beginning of the season, Nestrasil tried to play too much of a soft skill game, and it didn't work for him at all. To me, one of the biggest reasons he only managed 8 points in 21 games to start the season is that his upper body and lower body were a bit disconnected, making him predictable and easy to dispossess. Once he made a conscious effort mid-season to stop relying so much on skating and pure skill, his impact jumped to another stratosphere. Take a listen.
It seemed like the second half he really gained a lot more attention from NHL teams and everything. Was there something that kind of led to that surge in the second half?
I mean, as I said, the physical part, I'm glad that we had a great coaching staff that helped me a lot and that kind of pushed me towards my goals, and they were straight with me. They told me what I needed to work on, and I started working on it. I came from Czech U17, which is not a great league, and I never played it. I never knew how to play it, so I just started doing it basically, and it worked for me.
I absolutely love this quote because it shows just how adaptable and coachable he is. He identified with the help of his coaching staff that what he was doing to that point was not working, and he made an immediate commitment in the middle of the season to change his playing style. It's incredible that he went from not showing much physicality at all at the beginning of the year to having physicality ranked as his best overall trait on Elite Prospect scale by the time the draft rolled around. And his physicality brought a boost to every other part of his game, including his offense. On this play, Nestrasil gets a stretch pass with a defender all over him. He leans into his opponent as he picks up the puck, and the defender has no chance against him physically, which gives him plenty of space to finish on the breakaway. This is an incredible show of strength, and it shows how the harder edge that he was starting to play with helped maximize every other part of his game. He became more assertive in the offensive zone, he evolved into an even more dangerous forechecker, he started throwing the body in the defensive zone to dispossess players, and he became much more intelligent at using his body to protect the puck. And his physicality perfectly complemented his motor by adding an extra layer of disruption to throw off opponents' games. This is the type of impact he can have in the NHL if he continues to develop this physicality, and it's one of the biggest reasons the Blackhawks are so excited to add him to the prospect pool. But that's not to say that he's only a forechecker with physicality, because his offensive toolkit has always stood out against his peers, even from a very young age. In this clip from the U12 level, Nestrasil splits the defense to find open ice, takes the pass, and then blows past another young player, leaving him sprawled on the ice in the process. He then confidently goes between the legs into the top corner on the breakaway for a gorgeous finish that was topped only by an equally unbelievable celebration. And the cherry on top is that the kid that Nestrasil blew past for the breakaway was none other than Anton Frendel. It's insane how small the world is sometimes. And of course, this skill level also translated to the USHL level. He was often trusted as a primary puck carrier, and although I don't expect that to be his role in the NHL, he was still mostly effective due to his high level of skill. And just like the rest of his game, his skill works in tandem with his length because he covers so much ice with each successful deke, allowing him to work effectively through and around opponents. But the offensive tool that showed the biggest improvement was his playmaking, as he flashed elite vision and passing much more frequently as the season went on. On this play, Nestrasil fluidly picks up the puck off the boards, carries it towards the point, and look at this freaking pass across the ice in the offensive zone. It's perfectly tape to tape after he identifies the right lane, showing off both excellent vision and flawless execution. Later that same game, Nestrasil spins as he receives the puck behind the net, and then skates to the goal line and finds an incredibly timed tape-to-tape pass through 3 defenders to a darting teammate who easily finishes this chance. And these moments are not accidents. Nestrasil already excels at reading plays and scanning the ice. It's rare for a so-called raw prospect to arrive at the puck already having a clear picture of the ice from scanning beforehand rather than simply reacting after. But Nestrasil has already mastered this trait. On this shift in the Clark Cup playoffs, he only touches the puck momentarily, but that one touch was perfect. Nestrasil has his head up the entire time, and although he takes a massive hit on the play, he makes an inch-perfect pass to split the seas for David Klee, who's unable to finish on the breakaway. This is the epitome of taking a hit to make a play, and it's only possible because of how well he identifies his teammates' positioning and the open lane before he ever touched the puck. And if you're not convinced from that clip, let's go through another play that better demonstrates his scanning ability. This play occurs on the penalty kill, and Nestrasil's teammate makes a move into the defender who sticks the puck away. Before he reaches the loose puck, Nestrasil scans over his left shoulder, identifies a trailing forward, and immediately knows exactly what he's going to do once he reaches the puck. He doesn't hesitate and immediately makes the right play to his teammate, who has a wide open lane to walk in and score a goal. This happens all the time in his film. Nestrasil is constantly mapping the ice so he never has to guess where teammates or opponents are, and that is an incredibly rare trait for an 18-year-old to already master. This calmness and ability to process the game under pressure makes him the type of player that you'd want on the ice when things don't go according to plan. On this play, the puck is dumped in from the neutral zone and Gantiev goes to play it, but the puck goes off a stanchion and bounces right into the slot. The goaltender recovers for a desperate poke check to relieve pressure momentarily, and then Nestrasil gathers the puck. Now I want you to note where the goaltender is in this frame. He's completely out of position and has a defender draped all over him when Nestrasil first gets possession, so Muskegon is in a terrible defensive position if a turnover occurs. With that in mind, Nestrasil currently has an open lane to turn up the ice and try to beat the defender to the far side, but he makes a far more intelligent play. He takes a quick glance at the forechecker, identifies that carrying the puck straight up the boards would be too risky since any turnover is going straight into the empty net, and instead carries the puck safely behind the net to give everyone the chance to reset. He then calmly goes coast to coast, showing off really good speed and skill. This play does not show up at all in the stat sheet, but it's exactly the type of situational awareness and calmness under pressure that will translate easily to the NHL. And that brings me to the next point. It's easy to watch Muskegon games and not fully grasp how important Nestrasil was. It's easy to lump him alongside other prospects who don't have elite production, but if your definition of a raw prospect is a player with a low floor and a high ceiling, Nestrasil is not a raw prospect. His motor, length, and physicality gives him a very safe floor, and his ceiling is a lot better than most people are giving him credit for. He reads the game at a very high level, he has elite flashes of skill and playmaking, he has net front tendencies that will translate to the NHL, he's one of the only power forwards in this entire draft class, and he has excellent coachability and an obsession with getting better. I am not not about to underestimate a prospect with that rare combination. There are, however, two non-negotiables in his development. Firstly, he simply needs to get bigger. The biggest issue in Nestrasil's profile by far is that he only weighs 190 pounds. You cannot play his style in the NHL while weighing less than the rinkside general, and he'll probably be playing close to 220 pounds in his prime. He already gained about 15 pounds in the past year, but once he reaches that final weight, I expect his impact to skyrocket even more. His physicality will have much more of a bite, his lower body will be stronger, which will allow him to generate more power into his skating stride and his shot, and he'll be able to assert himself much more in the offensive zone. And the second non-negotiable in his development is just execution. He sometimes has bad decision making on the puck even when his processing is good, he can sometimes get lost in the offensive zone, and he has some rare but awful mistakes in the defensive zone where he identifies danger but does nothing to contain it. On this play, for example, an opponent is making his way into the slot, but Nestrasil just drives by instead of trying to make a decisive play. This is an awful play given the circumstances, and it directly leads to a goal against. But these are all execution issues, not problems with IQ or ability. He just lacks experience against top competition, and I trust prospects with his foundation of skill and IQ to improve as they gain more reps. Now, if you stay till the end of the video, first of all, you're an absolute legend, and second of all, let's finally discuss why I believe this is one of Kyle Davidson's most important draft picks. The Blackhawks are in year 4 of a rebuild, and they've had 3 first-round picks in 3 of the last 4 drafts. Needless to say, the prospect pool is getting extremely saturated with similar players. But even so, Nestrasil is an incredibly rare profile. His processing of the game is unique. His profile as a true power forward is unique. His combination of size and skill is unique. To prove this, let's just consider profiles for the future power play of the Blackhawks. On the point, there are 3 different defensemen who will each be vying for the PP1 quarterback position in Korchinski, Levshinov, and Rinzel. There are 3 different forwards at the junior level who are shoot-first left-handed players who thrive on the right circle on the power play: Anton Frandel, Nick Lardis, and Sasha Boisvert. There are also countless prospects who can play in the bumper position, including Frank Nazar, Oliver Moore, and Anton Frandel, who played that position last season with Djurgården. There's obviously Connor Bedard, who nobody is replacing on the power play, and then there's the net front presence. Nestrasil already thrives in that position, with almost all of his goals coming from around the blue paint. He has excellent hand-eye coordination, a relentless motor to chase rebounds, and excellent playmaking instincts from around the net. That entire skill set is nearly non-existent in the current prospect pool beyond Nestrasil and fellow 2025 draft pick Mason West. And that's why the Blackhawks can be extremely patient with his development. He's going into an excellent situation with UMass a year earlier than he initially planned to, and their program has a reputation for preparing prospects effectively for the NHL. The Hawks should be in no hurry to call him over, and I expect that giving him time to round out his game without the pressure of immediate results will pay off in the long term. I expect to see a polished NHL-ready forward who can slot seamlessly into their lineup when the moment is right. So what do you think of Vaclav Nestrasil's overall profile, and how do you see him fitting into the future team? Let me know what you think, and I'll see you down in the comments section and in the next video. Until next time.